one in a million. This place, these people, they need people like me and Johnny Gargano because we are the heart and soul of this movement.
Can y'all hear me good? Sound like y'all can.
You are the appendix of this business, completely disposable.
Yep.
And look, I can see I'm offending you. I'm not saying it's the case for you. Because I hope you
Let's get this thing on the road.
I hope you are the future of WWE. But I've been watching you. I've been listening to you. I can see how you carry yourself. And I'm telling you right now, I don't think you have what it takes to be the future. You have no shot to listen to me. Because I want you to prove me wrong. Come on, prove me wrong. Prove all these people wrong. You know how to do it. You know how to do it. I'll tell you. You stop thinking about the moment that we're headed to you. And you start making your own moments. You know how to do that. You check your ego at the door. You look at yourself in the mirror. You realize you're not as good as you think you are. But you let your passion drive you to get better. And more importantly, you leave everything you have and your free every time you step up in front of these people. That's how you prove me wrong. That's how you become the future. That's how you become the face of WWE. Motivation. And the Owens.
All right, let's get this.
You'll never be like me, Kevin. Well, talking sense into you didn't work, but maybe this will.
Orgullosamente Latino hasta la muerte y después. Worldwide Latino pride, the ambassadors of violence. LAX, K-Dog, the notorious 187 Highway 5. Just act like you know. Won't stop, stop it. I'm from Miami, not Compton. Down with the X's and the disco hopping. To my boys was in the 787 and those up and fucking rolling 211. Don't you stop it, rolling in my little top truck. Making sure you doesn't feel me every time we bust. Check the milk like a nut, going 50, 150, heat up, the feed up, we stuff in some picky.
Welcome to Keeping It 100 with Kona. Billions and billions of downloads, pound after pound of Iranian tobacco later. We are now chopping it up on Spreaker. I am MC of the Week, known online as Dark X, or you might know my twin, Rappler X. You can also find me tattooing all your favorite wrestlers and marks on Instagram and Facebook at Deep Search Tattoo or at GarbXEdge_DST. You can also support my artwork by grabbing a shirt from Pro Wrestling Tee Store, Ben Hameen, or the Conspiracy Horseman, or check out the logo I did and subscribe to on YouTube to Stevie Richards' face. This week, from 83 weeks on ad-free shows, former WCW President Eric Bischoff returns to discuss the CM Punk AEW Scrum and fight controversy, his disrespect towards Tony Khan, and also why is the video still available? Smells like a work to me. Plus, suspending and firing talents in WCW, AEW main events, Hangman Adam Page, and more. The Conspiracy Horsemen, my brothers, Ya Allah, return as well, as Ben Hameen talks working with Punk and Colt and OVW. Abaddon describes appearing on AEW Dark, and the
I'm out to regroup this shit.
In the listener mailbag, Conan and DI answer questions about Ricky Starks, Wheeler Yuta, The New Day, Dominic and Rhea Ripley, and The Acclaim. All this, plus predictions of the NFL season, interesting Week 2 games, and so much more. And now, without further delay, let's hand it off to the master of the verbal gems, his Conan.
Did you like the nighttime effect, Joe?
Yes.
All right. Yo, we're back with episode 324 of Keeping It 100 Conan, the mighty DI. And Josie, the Philly entrepreneur. What it do? Gold. And that? Yo, man, let's start off the show like we always do with the shout-outs. If I put your name or city, it's my bad. It's Irene Tobacco. If I haven't shouted you out.
Man, this guy.
We have a lot to catch up on. We're keeping it one that well.
I like this discussion. I think about it. We always have our little things we do, what it do, and I say what's going on. And we always, that's how we start the show with like a little quick little catchers. But remember those commercials back in the day, like it was wild, not too long ago, but a while back, when they did when everybody did the what's up, and then they did the spin-off where they had like the nerdy guys, and they were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know? I was thinking like maybe we should start changing it up because like the fan base is kind of nerdier, then maybe we should do like a more nerdy type of intro. What it do? What's up? That we should. Hey, what are you doing?
Yes.
Like that.
Remember, like you used to do the shirt. That's enough.
Yeah.
And I used to do when I was a heel and going against you guys, and you used to touch my shirt. Enough already.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. You know, I used to love that video. Used to crack up with enough already.
Panzer thought it was great.
Right.
So let me just start off. There's this guy, he's either a captain or master sergeant, something like that, in the United States Air Force, and he wrote me a really nice letter. I'm sorry I didn't write me another one. I would appreciate it. A really nice letter.
Damn. At least I'm improving on this guy.
We lost the letter.
Well, a couple of things could have happened. My mother-in-law's here. She could have thrown it away. I have 2 dogs who have...
Oh, he wrote you a letter.
Right.
Oh, okay.
He wrote me a letter.
Why didn't you just tell them, dude, K100 questions in Gmail, just type an email to us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyways, he was a very long, nice letter. He took his time. And, you know, if I would have had podcasts back when I stood watches, because we stood 6-hour watches in the Navy, they were fucking brutal. And if you fell asleep, you were fucked. And they would do shit like, they would actually go around and put like little things where you were standing watch to make sure that you didn't fall asleep. And they'd ask you after the watch, hey, did you see this red tag that was, on this faucet? No. So let me see, you were there for 6 hours and you didn't see that tag? That means you fell asleep. Oh, they were the most boring thing, especially when you were underway. But anyways, so for stress and to pass the time and all the shit they go through, they listen to our show and they really like it. He actually asked me for an autographed picture, which I will be sending to you.
What's going on, Jeff?
If you could send it to us again, I'd be more than happy to read it, and I thank you very much for that.
Real Jeff H.
So that's the...
Hey, what's going on, my man?
Include that in the shout-outs. Then there's
Alright, I'm back to it.
Jonathan Clark from Southfield, England, AWA Unleashed Minneapolis, Roderick from Birmingham, Alabama, Adam Cross from Burlington, Vermont, Terry Jenny New York City, Owens, Carson City, Nevada, Gulchy Smith, Nashville, Sean E. San Antonio, D Fresh 90.
Damn, he got me.
Kent, Washington, 253, Michael Kevin Lovett, Nashville, Skinwalker Club, Montclair, New Jersey, Gregory D, Columbus, Ohio, Jerry Ansel, Baltimore, Osh Shank.
Oh, thanks for subscribing. I just bought the whole series. Like the Cowabunga collection. They got all the old games from Super NES, Nintendo, the original Nintendo, and all that stuff.
Tracy 32, Upstate New York, James Thornton, Toledo, Ohio, JBL, Phoenix, Adam.
Yeah, I never beaten this game, because this game you can't win for losing.
Chris Philly.
And I give props to the people who beat this game, actually.
Minneapolis, the Eric Extreme G, Manhattan, Jai Bowles, Vegas, Roderick, Birmingham, Alabama, Liz Williams, Demopolis, Alabama.
Yeah, I might try him.
Taylor, W. England. So those are the people who are listening to us domestically and around the world. Thank you very much for this, and make sure to spread the word to friend or foe. We got.
No, I'm gonna try
one
Donatello
like that,
next,
too,
like you
but that
advised me
was
to.
also lost along with the Air Force level. So if I didn't mention it, please
Yeah, let's
right
try
back.
Donnie.
We got one Patreon guy I want to shout out, Teo Adewolo, Adewolo from some Nigerian, from Brooklyn. I also want to make sure that you check out our Patreon. That's where we put on all the extra stuff that didn't fit on the regular show, the video and the audio, 6 years of catalogs. Start at page 1 with all the running gags. There's a bunch of KG.
I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
For like 3 episodes. And I do Trainwreck Show, Ambush, MMA, wrestling.
Oh man.
Joe just mentioned.
Shit, he got me.
You're on for you and he was doing the rehab show, it was a great show. We had one.
Lord, that's okay for the first
Diego
try.
Sanchez, Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson,
Chael Sonnen back in the day.
Chael Sonnen, Ken Velasquez, a group of people, bro. Like we talk to everybody that we find interesting. And I just gotta do it like this because I just got a guy who's a listener who has access to NFL players. We also become very popular. We have the Raw 8
Shit.
SmackDown reviews every week. We don't talk about that, that's damn sure. Musical segments.
Well, this guy's too much.
About everybody.
I never really liked fighting this guy.
Led Zeppelin. We go over the top 5 hits according to a round table.
I'm gonna try again with
You
him.
guys on it, and then me and Joe, Disco was one of them. I think he did Zeppelin, right?
Yes.
Y'all spread the word and tell him I'm live.
Right. What else, Joe?
We can get the main.
Shoot, I really don't know how to do the special moves. I all of a sudden do them, man.
The bonus mailbag all early and ad-free on Patreon. We also like to shout outs on the show every month and plugs for $25 tier month. So if you want to get your business plug or your podcast or your social media or anything like that, that's on the $25 tier above. Also available for $25.
What's going on, King Bone?
They're basically live Q&As, and you can come on and ask Conan and just anything you want. And also stay and check out everyone else's questions. Every now and then we do a show review roundtable. We brought that back last week, where Disco had this and wanted to discuss AEW Dynamite.
I'm doing alright. I just had to buy me a new microphone. My old one quit working
A lot
on
of
me.
us chop it up in there on all, any and all subjects that K100 find interesting. So the sports section, movies, talk about the podcast, sports, wrestling, already. But if you're a hardcore listener to the show, you have a job where you're driving, or a forklift, or
Yep, new gameplay
gym a lot, and you need content to listen to.
from an old game.
You'll never run out of stuff. We put up all segments for the show every week early as well. It doesn't miss the show. You're going to hear everything we recorded this weekend. So,
If you got any questions or musical selections for the TMNT seal of approval,
Yeah, I got one over on them.
Go
So
100questions@gmail.com. Make a little short so we can read a grip of them and send a video with them. We do those like every 6 weeks or so, right, Joe?
yeah, pretty much, yeah, every 6 weeks.
Yeah. And you know, bro, our stilo, we over deliver. I think the most important thing since we started this show is that, we don't bring people on here that agree with everything we say. We don't protect our friends. We don't have any fucking dog in the race. Calls it as you see it. Not much to put diplomacy here, that's for damn sure. But, our stilo, bro, we over-deliver, and we just love to give
Got him.
informative and thought-provoking
Got past the one guy.
with an extra ration of ball busting. That's really what the show boils down to. We've also got a very popular YouTube channel with the master of the clickbait himself, Hughley the Lush. Hughley, I won't do your show ever, like not even on your birthday, national Irish holidays, national...
very good.
whatever. And
On to the next one.
Cameo when we hit 50,000 subscribers, which you're like...
Oh, that's that damn shark.
And you can check out our hugely popular YouTube channel, which is at Keeping It 100 Official, and just for everybody's edification, Hugely is not an official or unofficial spokesman of the show. Joe is manning the 1s and 2s on Facebook. You can follow the show and everything that's going on at K100.net on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We also got JJ Claxton handling our business on TikTok. The solo part.
Girl, you make me feel so good.
All right, so we got JJ Claxton handling.
So what's going on, Angie?
We're trying to get 1,000 followers to go over and show some love. All right.
And Armin, y'all pulling up in here tonight. I decided not to go to the bar tonight. Damn.
Hey, Freddie Prinze Jr. here from the Wrestling with Friends podcast.
Damn, I almost had that son, bitch.
Real Cheese is all about trying. Why? Because cheese is for trying. That rolls off the tongue so nicely. And here's a few ways you can unleash your thirst for trying.
Damn, I'm about to
representation. All the creators.
Joe,
I'm about to do this over.
new episode.
So, friend just sent to me a Lara, and the subject is El Hijo del Vikingo. What up, OGs? Disco, thanks for pronouncing my name like a Latino instead of a ghetto a couple weeks ago. I did it again this week. My question is for Conan this week. A friend just sent to me El Hijo del... I don't know.
Oh, this guy.
I guess he means friend just sent to me a clip of El Hijo del Vikingo. And my first impression is this guy's a total superstar. Do you think he could be the next Latino megastar like Ray and Eddie? I fade, and what is his ceiling?
Yes, I do. He needs to learn English because that's
Right,
like
I was
a
going to say that. A lot of these Mexican guys have a lot of charisma in Mexico, but they don't speak English. You know, like okay, let's look here. Who are the three most? If you look at the three most famous Mexican wrestlers.
Yeah, I never beaten this game. You can't win for losing in this
Pretty
thing.
much, right? They all spoke very good English. Yeah. So, the next one is from you're booking that guy on top of Mexico, so it's obviously you've got the ability to be on top somewhere else.
He's our world champion and he's only 24. That tells you a lot.
Oh my! Well, he's only 24 years old. Wow.
Bro, there's another guy. I want to say he's 21 and he's the next Vikingo. You know, it's incredible the talent we have, and they're not known in the United States. Which is so sad.
Well, you tell the guys, dude, you get that, put your earphones, you get your Beats by Dre, stick them in your ear on your phone, and when they're traveling, these apps learn English. You know when you're on your phone,
Got one over on next time.
Next is from Ryan Webb and said, you. I was going to say, wait a second. Alberto Del Rio, Ray, Eddie, and you. You know, perfect. Ryan Webb is such as AW. So I'm sure you got 100 emails about this, if there's a good answer to any of that. So a bit of background about me. I'm the VP of a cannabis company. Calm down, Tony, and I can get you whatever you need so you can leave Iran. So with that being said, because my background in the business, I'm confused around a few things. Obviously, we have no idea what happened to locker between the Punks and the Bucks. But from my background, higher up than possibly instigated situations such as using a hostile manner or those in the wrong.
Got him.
If you dealt with drama in AAA, how would you deal with this moving forward before you know now? Good.
Well, I wanted to say first that as soon as he mentioned he was the VP of cannabis company, I've already been in contact with him about possible sponsorship. So.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Good initiative.
God forbid Conan should be promoting cannabis. Every show in Iran. So what would you do based on what we know now? Vince was telling me how come the Kenny and the Bucks got suspended, but CM Punk has it. I'm like, well, because they're EVPs.
The non-stage.
Punk is
I
talent.
wonder who that
So
is.
they steal, but the other guys are EVPs.
I heard one of the wrinkles, and you hear guys talking about potential lawsuits, this and that. I heard one of the big
Oh,
wrinkles was the fact
shit.
that Punk got injured in the ring. And afterwards, he's fighting VPs, and it supposedly exacerbated his injury. That could be a big problem. You know what I mean? As far as lawsuits.
Have you heard the rumor that Punk is considering suing for unsafe work environment?
Yeah, exactly.
That's floating around. So
I'm not even sure what the punishment
Bitch
was.
Gatsby. Gatsby.
Who got punished for what?
well, it's just suspensions right now.
Yeah, Kenny and the Bucks.
Okay, what was it?
They didn't list the time frame. They're just suspended. They've been taken off the intro to the show. They've been taken off the road. And they stopped being advertised for shows through December. So people really
Still beat her ass.
Hasn't been.
Bow your head in shame, bitch.
Whether or not this is true or not, because this could be the WWE with their predatory skills and, you know, interpromotional war. A story got leaked. I don't, you know, we don't know where it's coming from. But it could be from WWE just throwing this out there that may not even be true. That Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are considered killers to the WWE.
Right.
Which all would do is just throw more gas in the fire and create more problems for Tony Khan and that management team.
Yeah, but isn't their contract?
When they're up.
No.
Yeah. You know, people. It's rumored that the Bucks reached out through Cody. Said, hey, is there an opportunity there? I heard maybe it was through Kevin Owens, who's their boy. Who knows if any of that.
Yeah, her.
Disco, you said that I didn't consider that it could just be WWE trying to fluff things up and cause more trouble, but you know.
Absolutely.
That's what
100%.
But let me ask you a question. You mentioned the Bucks. I also think was it Nakazawa, Pat Buck, and Chris Daniels something?
Yeah, little girl, go run somewhere.
Yeah, they're all agents.
And Cutler.
They're all agents.
Cutler.
Okay, and what they do to Punk and they steal.
That hasn't been reported either. Yeah, I think that they.
Well, you're just not. The thing is, like, bro, the EDP guys have to come to work.
Oh, this is something.
So you just go the other guys. You don't have to suspend anybody. You just don't book them. They're talent. But like the suspend, you know, the EDPs are like, I don't know. Are they being financially?
If you're asking me, all those guys got suspended, and I'm assuming they got suspended because maybe they started the fight, but Punk needed to be suspended and they still need to be suspended. And I'd throw some fines on top of that too. It was unprofessional all the way through, from the scrum to the backyard to the backstage fight. I understand this had been boiling. I understand you got dissed, and I understand you had to do something. But it's like Cain Velasquez. He had to do something, and he's in jail.
Get it on.
So if you're willing to pay the price, fuck it, just go for it. Because they would have looked like the biggest punks in the fucking world. Like somebody that is on or listens to Get My Dough. Alright? If nothing would have happened. I think the idea shit had to be done. Tony had to gain some modicum of respect. You know,
It had to be disciplined.
Right.
It had to be disciplined. No discipline would have been just like, what are you kidding me? How can you not discipline these guys, right?
I think the idea is that the guys like Daniels and Buck that were suspended, even though they may have just been trying to break it up, which hasn't been confirmed, but they suspended anybody involved pending investigation.
Who was trying to just break it up?
I don't know, but those two guys are producers, and Daniels is like the head of talent relations. People assume that.
But you're not going to suspend them for trying to break it up, Joe.
Right.
So something happened.
You think that?
And you got to
both
remember,
sides or
Chris Daniels is from Southern California, so are the Young Bucks. Cutler's on a free ride, and they bring him on because that's their boy. He had to fight, or they would have fucking disowned that motherfucker. Nakazawa had to fight, or they would have disowned that motherfucker. You know, that's like if Sammy Guevara got into a fight, and what's that fucking J-Bro that hangs out with him all the time? Which thank God.
Well, maybe they're all suspended because the way you describe it, that they're ganging up on two guys.
Right. What would happen if you or me or Ray got into a fight in the dressing room? We would all jumped in.
I want to know this. What was the discipline for
Fuego del Sol?
I don't think there was any discipline. Was there?
I don't know. When Jericho and Goldberg.
Nothing. They worked together. That was it.
All right. Let's go, because I'm sure there's going to be more emails to bring in this episode. Okay, then this could be a possible suspension for the Latino guy, John Santos.
Right.
This could be a suspended email, a suspension of email.
Everyone is raised to give it to you.
Well, this is interesting because I'm throwing his Latino emails because you see what suspension might be necessary. Subject, why isn't AEW Ricky Starks going to use more consistently? Hey, what's up, y'all? Hope all is well. Love listening to y'all, especially while driving around to work. In my opining, y'all are the best wrestling podcast out there. My question is to the legendary opponent. Why do you think Ricky Starks isn't on TV as much? I think me and a lot of the other fans think he's entertaining his major superstar potential. Reminds me of The Rock. Connor, with your great wrestling mind, how would you book him going forward? Also, Disco Inferno. Is it true that the X-Pac spot, the Bronco Buster, originated from Juventud practicing a move on Conan in a minivan after a AAA tape? Does that merit a suspension for the mailbag?
1,000%. Trying to
John Sanders, right? John Sanders is suspended from the mailbag.
Did you like the nighttime effect, Joe?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so what's your answer to the question?
Well,
How would you book them going forward with the starts?
well, I wouldn't book them like they booked them on the pay-per-view. You know, I would have had maybe Hawk go in there with him, have a real good grudge, fight around the place, have a non-finish, have another fight where they fucking, you know, go at it again, maybe in a table, ladders, and chairs match. There's a lot you can do. Ricky Starks is charismatic, good-looking, great body, can wrestle. He's a star. He wrestles like a star. He acts like a star. How they are missing the boat on that motherfucker, I don't know. And I like Hobbs a lot. I think there's a lot there. He took the time because he was chubby and he got in shape. And he looks good. He looks believable. He's green, but he's been very smart. He doesn't try to do shit he can't do. You know. Yeah, he's booked all fucking wrong.
Do you think there's any truth to the rumor that Starks has heat for assaulting me in the front row at Dynamite? I mean, that'll do it.
That got him over. Yeah. Right.
The next one is from Brian Dunlap, and I'm assuming this guy's a new listener.
No. He's a frequent emailer now. I mean,
Really?
very.
This is a weird email. Because I don't know, maybe he doesn't listen to our show, he just sends emails in.
Okay, this is from Mike Durbin.
Okay, the subject is, do you think Wheeler Utah could be an AEW World Champion someday? Hello, according to Disco Inferno, after Utah series of matches with John Moxley, I was thinking, wow, this guy Wheeler Utah is going to be an AEW World Champion someday. I pulled out a little bit since then, though I still think he has a lot of potential. I remember a segment where he was brawling with a New Japan wrestler on the outside of the ring, and I was thinking, Utah could use working and brawling. Particularly when he's doing multi-man fight segments in the Black Combat Club. I remember Disco talking he's working his brawling in a previous episode. Well, it's been many episodes. But do you guys think Wheeler Utah has what it takes to become a singles world champion one day? If that does happen, do you think it'll happen in AEW or no dice? I just want to read this. We talked about this earlier, but we're reiterating in case this show is chopped up differently. But this is Dave Meltzer's star ratings for Wheeler Utah's matches, like his last 12 matches. Okay, 3 1/4, 3 3/4 stars, 3 3/4 stars, 3 3/4.
Did you just say this before?
Yeah, but I'm literally because this is
Yeah, that was like a pre-show.
Right, 4 3/4 stars, 3 1/2 stars, 2 1/4, 4 3/4, 4 3/4, 3 3/4, 4 stars, 4 stars, 3 1/2, 3 1/4, and 4 1/4. These are all matches that me and Conan watched, and I'm looking at the guy like, well, this guy's kind of green, you know, and could use like he's like a lot of the, and he doesn't. It just looks like he's not, you know, positioned correctly. A lot of just like it's kind of like the typical cookie cutter, you know, modern young wrestler. Not really built that, you know, imposing in size and kind of very choreographed his movements and stuff. And doesn't look like he can fight for real because it doesn't look like he can throw a punch with any stroke. And it's like I don't get it. I'm completely perplexed on this. That fan base is, you know, the way they view that guy.
Punker.
You know,
okay, let me take over.
He's cross-eyed too.
Punk
that
ass.
does not help. You know? So,
There's another one I hate the most.
but when you look at
Him
his
and
eyes,
that
he
purple
looks like he's got
motherfucker.
one of the eyes is off a little bit. Yeah, a little bit, you know, which kind of looks, it looks odd, right? But I'm not saying there's nothing against it, but the world champion, so the guy's a world champion, that would be,
I've never noticed that.
First picture I took.
And talking about eyes.
you never noticed this?
Joe, what does it do with the glasses? Is that your gimmick, or you still have pig eye, or whatever?
No, I'm gonna let the time run out.
From the damage from the...
Got you. Yeah, bow down and cry, bitch.
Like it'll start to hurt. So same thing as being...
Oh, because you're right up against the screen.
Yeah.
Like, right. We can turn the light down on your screen, Joe. You know, that would help. What's the first picture, Joe?
Start talking.
Can you blow it up a little bit?
Make it bigger.
Yeah, make it bigger so you can see.
No, we ain't going until we get Splinter, motherfucker.
They're not
You can see
perfectly congruent. It's like one's off and one's, well, yeah, so. I'm not gonna say it, but it's just a quirky. It's a quirky, you know.
Okay.
I don't know. All right, go ahead.
So he's not ready to be a world champion. And one, Disco gave a good reason, but I'm going to give you another even bigger reason.
How come
The guy
Ralph can't do this?
If you can't
This
let a
carbon
person
copy
be the
thing.
world champ, that's number one. Number two, you know, he just does kind of like, he's like, you know, everything's perfect up there.
There's no struggle or clumsiness. Everything's very smooth and
Right.
Shit.
Choreographed, kind of still green in a lot of areas. I can't believe we're having this conversation.
This carbon cocksucker.
Yeah, Brian does
Not
it.
world champion material.
This cocksucker copy.
Hangman Page is more world champion material than him. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this, and he's probably like 25 or something like that. If you're 25 years old and every one of your matches got a great Meltzer rating, and the promoter put one of the titles on,
You think you're doing everything right.
you think you're right, wouldn't you? I
You
when
think you're doing everything right.
When Punk was saying, these guys don't listen to his butt.
Wait a minute. I can't believe, Joe, that with Arn Anderson, Taz, Jake the Snake Roberts, Dean Malenko, Chris Jericho,
Brian.
all these guys backstage, and none of them are saying what
They're
we're
both.
saying.
Nobody solicits. I heard the stories. Nobody solicits advice from those guys. Nobody goes up to Arn Anderson and asks him for advice.
The dumbest thing you could ever do.
Yeah, right. You know, it's like it's crazy there. You know, and this bro's kind of Dave's fault a little bit. He keeps giving these guys like all these high stars, and like they think they're
Shit,
great.
man.
And I'm like, what are you? It's like,
You know what?
No, like,
I
we're giving you
never
good advice.
I never
you know?
really thought much about the so-called Meltzer effect.
All right, let's get
Like,
this
right
shit
when
on.
a guy like this brings
I'm
that
trying
up.
Mike.
Right. Next is from Christopher Mason, such as movies and TV series to rewatch.
And Dave, I've invited you a couple of times on the show. I'm inviting you one more time. Go ahead.
Next is from Christopher Mason, such as movies and TV series to rewatch. Greetings, K100 gang and Joe, and hope you're all doing well. Question for all of you. In your spare time, if you have any that is, which TV series and movies are favorites of yours to rewatch? I'll watch old episodes of like Cheers. Sometimes I'll watch. Like old comedy stuff. I used to watch it on, catch it. I'll laugh. Comedy used to be more edgy and more challenging, than it is today. Like today's stuff it's all like political. It's not even really that funny. What about you guys?
Shit, I had him.
Sopranos are once every year and a half for sure. I'm rewatching Breaking Bad with my wife now. I'll rewatch Mad Men, Deadwood, anything HBO that I watch where you can always go. Some people don't like it. Some people don't like to do that. Some people say I've seen it, but I'm a big rewatch.
Right. How about you, Kenny?
Yeah, I've seen it, but I've started getting it a rewatch, but I don't go out of my way to watch it. It's just like, a lot of times I'm working late, and if something's on, like the other day, I went on a 3-week Martin marathon. I forgot and they had a lot of dope guests on. I don't really rewatch anything, bro. I don't even rewatch my old matches. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Next is from Anthony Hunt. The subject is why NXT is better than Raw. K100 crew, greetings all, heard him before. An old school fan and preferred NXT over Raw. It's a solid show, it doesn't insult my intelligence and respects the business. My question is, why did great tag teams like the New Day and Street Profits get treated as comedy acts? As an African American, that doesn't sit well with me. Maybe one day WWE will treat their black wrestlers serious and respect them. Have a great day, Anthony Hunt. P.S. I'm an old school fan who grew up watching Steiner's Harlem Heat, Four Horsemen, and Supercars. I think it really
Damn.
There's a lot of guys in the WWE that are kind of comedy acts. Sami Zayn is one of them. Okay, New Day is one, but it's like more comedy like for kids. The Street Profits the same thing. But bro, don't sit there and tell me that Bobby Lashley is a comedy actor. Or MVP is a comedy actor. Like
He's talking about the majority of them.
It's not like they make all the black guys do.
I think you talk
Guys
about
comedy actors. Maybe tag teams, yeah, but that's not. I don't think that's by design. I think that's because those guys are kind of funny in real life and like to play video games and everything, and they just kind of chat.
I think it's a combination of both. Because I remember when New Day first came out, they were doing the gospel thing. I was like, this is fucking JoJo as fuck. And they turned it around, flipped it, and made a New Day. Right? They used their innate comedy skills to make that shit work. What a tremendous word by Latino on a podcast, innate. But originally it was a comedy act, okay? Street Profits was a comedy act. Crime Time was a comedy act. There is something to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but so was Viking Raiders.
Yeah,
Gable and Otis. I mean, like,
we're talking about very few blacks in the company, very few black tag teams. What if it went to Ron Killing's comedy? There's something to it.
Right, but there's a lot of white guy comedy too.
Yeah,
it's just there's a lot of
Gotcha.
stuff that permeates throughout that company with the character. Like you tell a lot of. That's what happens when you get a bunch of young writers.
Yeah.
Because they're into comedy. You know, it's just like, you know, I don't know. I think that,
I don't mind.
Poor excuse or two.
I find most African Americans way funnier than white boys, so I don't mind.
Well, Dave Chappelle is like the funny, you know.
Yeah.
Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, like, you know.
Right, Pryor, Murphy.
Right. Oh yeah.
I mean, and there's good guys.
Oh,
like
it's little
Dice
pet
Clay,
bitch.
O'Neal.
Well, like it's funny because one of the funniest things is when you go like at the sports book on Sunday for NFL, a lot of black guys, because black guys love football. Bro, they're funny. Like, they're watching games, it's like that. I don't know, but black people are kind of like funnier than white people.
Right.
Like generally
And
speaking.
they're very,
like,
yeah, they're better dancers. Yeah, it's just something that, you know,
yeah, it's like, you know,
white guys golf better.
white guys are kind of more vanilla, nerdy, you know, so black guys are kind of just funnier, right?
Yeah, they rock at all the white boy sports like darts.
Yeah.
You know, golf.
Yeah. You know, and black guys might be better wrestling fans too, because like when I was working in a warehouse and shit, if you talk to a black wrestling fan, they'll talk to you like they believe it. They believe it. So they're not smart nerds or whatever.
Let me tell you the big difference between a black fan and a white fan and a Latino fan. Black fans, when they would meet me and Ray, this is a shoot. Anywhere we went, they fucking would lose it. You know how like when you watch Def Comedy Jam and they fall off their seat, they'd be like,
Gotcha,
oh,
Riz.
they get hyped, bro. Like they get into it. You know, when you meet a Latino, it's mostly a lot of love. Man, we love what you do for the culture. You know, arriba la raza, that type of shit.
All right.
And white boy fans were more like, yo, man.
The metal
we'll
works.
meet you, you know,
What's
can I get your
that?
autograph or whatever. There is a
We're
difference.
scared to meet you.
Well, they weren't
Kind
really,
of more really,
they weren't really scared. They were just more. They
Oh,
didn't get
shit,
they
this
didn't get
is-
as hype. You know, it's almost like when if you've ever been to a black church, because I grew up in a black neighborhood in Miami. Like I went to a black church. Those motherfuckers
So
get
much
crunk.
better. Yeah, so much better.
You know, and I would go to the white church because I had white friends. You know, I was Catholic.
Quiet.
Right, I fall asleep. Right.
Yeah, I did make it this far. I remember
What
it.
about church? You ready? They always brought food. There was always great food. Bro, the best food is at church, right? You know, people bring potlucks and cookies and homemade shit. I loved going and just terrorizing everybody's cooking. And here's the second part. Every girl went there really nicely dressed or kind of sexy. Not hoe, but very, like, you know what I'm saying? Now we're getting an eye for it.
Well, a lot of people meet it. A lot of couples meet in church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one's from the Wild West, Jesse James. The subject is Dominic Parade of Rhea. Greetings, K100 fan band. First time writing into the show. I'd like to offer my thoughts on Dominic Hero's heel rep. There's been a lot of buzz surrounding the angle, and I thought everything had been perfect up until last night's Raw. In my opinion, what they should have done is make Rhea and Dominic
No,
into a
everyone wanted to fight.
putting the position Dominic is the
Leo,
outlaw of the
you ain't
jungle.
did shit, yeah.
Instead, they're clearly portrayed him as some kind of brainwashed sex slave taking orders from Rhea instead of making him into a man. They had the perfect opportunity to make Dominic into a credible world title contender, and instead they chose to double down on the whole femdom angle, which while was good for generating buzz in the short term, will only hurt Dominic's career in the long run. What are your thoughts on this? Did you watch it last night?
No, so I can't.
Let's discuss this when we do the review. And then we're gonna, Jesse James, we're gonna hold up on your email, and we're gonna discuss this when we review Raw. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about.
Well, the one thing I can say without having seen it is Dominic was kind of dead in the water. Nobody was really talking about him, fucking with him. He's all over the place right now.
Yeah, and like we said, you notice it right away. He's got better body language as a heel than he did as a babyface by a mile. You know?
And I heard this thing, it was kind of funny. You know, like Sports Cheetah, or it might have been Vince, because I follow Vince. And so they had this little clip of Vince talking to that Featherweather guy.
Yeah, Sports Cheetah usually, but that's Sports Cheetah.
Right. What's his name?
Featherstone?
Chris Featherstone.
All right. I like how he's got a Native American name in his blood.
Damn.
And they were talking about Dominic, right? So Vince was saying, you know, I can't get into Dominic. You know, he looks like a little boy. You know, I can't get into Dominic. He doesn't fit in there. And he said, and I want to hear your opinion on this. He said categorically that Rhea Ripley, Dominic, Finn Balor were all miscast. That the only person that should be in that group is Priest.
Oh my God, Rhea?
Yeah, what do you think of that?
No, me and Vince disagree on like almost everything about Raw and SmackDown.
Right. So let me just say this. I just wanted to hear your opinion, but I 100% agree, bro. Rhea fits in like a fucking glove.
Yeah.
Priest obviously fits in like a glove. Finn Balor fits in. And Dominic, they're trying to change him. He's going through a metamorphosis. So how can you say he doesn't fit?
Right. They're all dark and they look good in black, dressed in black. You know, it's like you know, yeah, it's kind of weird. You know, he got a weird take on it. Next is some Guled Ahmed. The subject is Jamie Hayter. You know, gentlemen, what's your solo thoughts of Jamie Hayter? She's a great worker, decent personality, is a thick physique. Are you yearning for AEW to give her Hayter a chance with the women's belt? And thanks for paying for it. Conan had some very opinionated thoughts on her coming off the AEW pay-per-view. Maybe echo those thoughts right now. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I saw that match between Sheeta, who I still don't know why they push her, even though she got an award for having 50 matches. That's right. And I'd like to know what the fuck she's wearing. Have you seen what she's wearing?
Yeah, she dresses like an Asian cheerleader girl that's lingerie. It's like I don't know. It's like nothing you would wear to a fight.
This is exactly what it looks like. It looks like she was going to a Halloween party as a genie, and somebody cut off one of her legs, one of her fucking transparent.
If it looks like what a 14-year-old would wear on a date with her first, the parents have said you can go on a date with the 15-year-old boy in your class, and we're gonna pick him. We're gonna drive you and drop you off at the skating rink, and that's what you wear. That's you know. I don't. Nothing an adult would wear to a fight, right? But that's Japanese anime. The look.
Right. No, I understand that, and it does. It looks different, but she doesn't look like a star, bro. It looks like somebody you find at like a Marvel convention cosplay, walking around the hall and shit, with hair and that fucking outfit.
So that's Rio.
Rio, not a star to me. Britt Baker, to me, has become kind of stale. She's overexposed. I mean, she has
repetitive. Everything she does like a carbon copy from a year ago.
Right.
You know?
She's got some gear. You know, she has good matches. Not a great worker. She's super over. I don't know why they didn't do the D thing, because that's a babyface spot if I ever saw one. But I just think she's stale and she's overexposed. Then there was Toni Storm, who I think is a star of that promotion, of the division. She can't cut a promo. She doesn't interact with the fans. She doesn't command the ring like a star. When you're a star, you take over the ring and you take over the match. Bianca Belair does that. Charlotte does that. Becky does that. Sasha does that. She doesn't do that. John Cena does that. She's missing that ingredient. I can't believe somebody has not taken her under her wing and made her her project because she's money, she's hot as fuck. Jamie Hayter to me was a star. She came dressed out as a star. She's got ass all up in the air. Like she's not afraid to use her sex appeal, thick girl kind.
She looks tough too.
She can fucking go. She can wrestle. She can cut a promo. I'm into Jamie Hayter.
Much like the crowd kind of chose the Acclaim guy. It seemed like the crowd chose Hayter. You know, they weren't as happy this time.
Well, I can tell. They've seen enough of these girls, and they think like, hey, that's the girl what we need to start cheering for, because that's the one they need to push to the top.
And let me reiterate what I said before. I really feel that Tony felt the change in the wind, and the next pay-per-view, the Extreme's going to win the title, and that place is going to go through the fucking roof. They like those guys.
Or they might do it, Conan, at the big show they have at that ballpark. What the hell is it called? The Grand Slam or whatever?
Which either one. The next big, whatever. The next time they wrestle Swervely Delicious, or what's her fucking name? Basketball.
Swerving Our Glory.
They're losing the titles.
Right.
What up? It's Dramos from the Life as a Gringo podcast. Here to get...
It's running smooth and scoring non-stop. Right, exactly. Yeah, you're the unfiltered version. Like, I'm always, I listen to a lot of your...
Of the silver-tongued and haired assassin himself, Eric Bischoff. Boom!
I love that. How are you guys?
Pretty good, man.
Pretty good.
We always look at how, like, I'm always, I listen to a lot of your clips on Conrad's shows. You always have controversial and excellent discussions. And when things like this happen, when there's controversy in wrestling, bro, you're like the only go-to, like in the podcast media, like former boss that's done this. It's like, if Vince McMahon doesn't do podcasts, Paul Heyman, I guess, in charge of ECW, he doesn't do podcasts. Dixie doesn't do podcasts. It's like, if you want perspective from, like, the boss's point of view, it's like you're the go-to guy. If you think about it.
There's also Pritchard. I think he still does his.
Yeah, but Pritchard can't say much.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you're the unfiltered version. Like, okay, let's get your point of view from things, because this is obviously a very educated point of view. And things have happened.
Well, I'll maybe piggyback off of that, and I'll go on this, Eric, because we were right behind you, and we agreed with you, and we're also known for being controversial. You and I have known each other for 25 years, and I've always been very opinionated and very outspoken, and that's one of the things I liked about you. But one of the things I did want to bring up is, obviously, when Punk had said, oh, this is going to be like Bash at the Beach, and we were like, get the fuck out of here, and then he brought it up again at the press conference. Bro, I still stand by that, but now in 5 years. Bro, not in 5 years, not in 10 years. And the only thing that I wanted to add to that, it's amazing to me that guys like him and anybody of his ilk who were really, this guy was probably a teenager when WCW was around, okay? So you're trying to tell me that as a teenager at home, you can compare what was happening back then to now? No, Eric was there, he was living it, he was in the middle of it, he was doing it, and there's like a lot of people today's generation forget the cool shit we were doing back then, and they minimize a lot of the shit, and they weren't even around, and they like to make comparisons when they weren't even there. There's a certain intelligence that you accumulate, which is actually called crystallized intelligence, where it's the only intelligence that you get through experience. You have empirical experience. You were there. You lived it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that happens. But I think, here's what I thought about this over the weekend, really. Was why does it like me so much that Punk went out and humiliated Tony Khan? I've said some things about Tony that are not flattering. And again, Tony's not paying me millions of dollars a year. It kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. But what bothered me is the disrespect. The disrespect that Punk showed Tony, his boss, his company, the rest of the locker room. And I think lack of respect pisses me off almost more than anything. And not even when it's targeted towards me. Like, I don't give a shit, to be honest. But going back to Punk, and one of the reasons I threw a flag when he made that comment about him being just as important or more important to AEW than Hall and Nash were to WCW or whatever that shit was he said. The reason it lit me up is because that's Punk's way of trying to get himself over by disrespecting other people. Punk trying to get himself over by making himself bigger than Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. which was a stupid comment to make, to your point, Frank. But it wasn't the stupid comment that pissed me off. It was the lack of respect that he showed Scott McKenna. And furthermore, going back to one of the reasons I pulled the trigger on Tony, because I bit my tongue for a long time about some of the silly things that Tony would say. But when Tony came out and said, well, if Ted Turner knew half as much about booking as I do, WCW would still be around. That was just such a disrespectful comment to make about Ted Turner, who, by the way, created the 2 fucking networks that you're on. And the lack of respect that pisses me off and solicits a response from me, really more than the stupid shit that...
Is that a generational thing, do you think, Eric, or is it an age thing?
I don't know, man. It may be just a culture. And I think respect is something that seems to be just dissipating more and more every day. Civilization.
That's a good point.
At work, and social media.
Well, there's a very simple. There's 2 basic polarizations in professional wrestling today, and it's weird because social media creates the polarization. You're on one side, the other, where you can constantly argue your side, right? And there's 2 sides. There's 2 like different sides of the argument here. We have the AEW fans versus the WWE fans. And we have our generation versus this generation. And we're on social media sharing our opinions and our knowledge of like, you know, what we could, like I said, me and Tony and you, we watch the shows. We want to watch the shows as fans, right? And we would like the shows to be, you know, we're older. A lot of this stuff is, you know, out of our, you know, like the 24/7 title stuff and everything. There's a lot of stuff on shows like Wrestling Conversations out of our, they don't interest us.
Yes.
But when we see things that do interest us, we comment on it, we watch shows, and we like analyze, and like we like you, we look at the numbers. Okay, well, you know, from our knowledgeable standpoint that we have, it's like, okay, why do we think their numbers are underwhelming? Why do we think their numbers are performing well? Or we give our opinions, right? But when the numbers are not performing well, there's like, you know, we kind of give our take. And it's like, all of a sudden, it's like giving our take is like, we've chosen a side. We're like, you know, we're antagonistic. Where it's like, no, I'm just telling you why I think I didn't like this segment, or I didn't like this show, and the show did not perform well in the numbers. And like, I'm giving my opinions, which, and being on social media, you have to become defensive because you're attacked for it. It's like you're attacked for your opinions on wrestling shows these days. And it's like, it creates like a very toxic environment. And, you know, you and I are like in the same boat. I'm kind of fed up with the polarizations, everything in the media. Like news media, wrestling media, they're very similar because they're all very narrative driven, right? And I just can't stand how, like, you know, the dirt sheet community has kind of like targeted us, and like, you know, their fans, this fan base is like, you know, we're out of touch. And that's the narrative that, like, you know, we don't know what we're talking about. Everything. And bro, like,
it's funny, man.
Go ahead.
I don't mean to cut you off, but it's funny. I did a Strictly Business just a little while ago. It probably is dropping as we speak, where I broke down last week's AEW show, and I made a point of saying, look, I'm not going to get into subjective opinion. I'm not going to talk about whether I liked the match or didn't like the match or anything like that. I'm just going to talk about the fact that because the format is basically non-existent, they just threw a bunch of matches up against the wall. There was no thought given to that format at all. They lost 40% of their viewers from the beginning of the show to the end of the show. They lost almost 400,000 viewers. That's kind of a big freaking deal, right? And it wasn't the action in the ring. It wasn't the talent. It wasn't any of that. Because there's great talent. But there's such a lack of understanding and focus on something as simple as a format. You had on last week's show, he did a main event, which is the Ring of Honor main event, which just off the bat, subjectively speaking, kind of makes no sense to me, but whatever. But that was in the main event. That was the main event of last week's show. Do you know that from the beginning of last week's show up until the main event, there was no promotion of that main event?
Not only that, Eric.
They mentioned when the graphics came out briefly, but that's not the same thing as building interest.
Not only that, Eric, and this is something you and Vince were really good at, McMahon, that is, and even Russo when he was in WWE. You guys would capitalize on stuff like that because you had, arguably, after CM Punk's rumor debut, maybe your most inquisitive. Everybody wanted to see what was going to happen on the show, bro. And you did nothing. The main event, like you said, why are two guys fighting for a title of another company? That's number one. Number two, why is Jimmy Utah and what was the other guy? Danny Garcia, your main event guys on that show? That's not a main event match. Those are not main event names.
And even if the answer is, I'll take the other side. Yeah, but Conan, we want to give our young guys an opportunity to break through the glass ceiling. Okay, which I think is all bullshit, by the way.
That's good. You don't have to put them in the main event on that type of show. You have Mox, you have Jericho, you have Hangman Page, who hasn't said dick off and is getting buried in all of this. There's a lot of other things that you could have done. MJF, you know what I'm
Here's
saying?
the most obvious thing last week. The most obvious thing they could have done. If Tony really felt the need to put that ROH title match on television for whatever reason, whatever his motivation is, whether I agree with it or not, cool, put him on the show. No big deal. Why would you not put two of your biggest stars on that show? It's Bryan Danielson and Page. Why would you not put them in the main event, and why would we not be hearing from them throughout the show as we're building anticipation to that main event? There's not a good reason. There's no good answer for that other than nobody fucking understands what a format is or how to build an audience over time.
Right, and then have Bryan Danielson, if he wins, go, because he did the tournament for the title. This is just the beginning of the reason I came to AEW. I'm going to the championship. Let's say Hangman Page would have won. He could have said something. I'm not in the tournament, but whoever wins the tournament, I want a chance for that championship or something like that.
Anything.
Right. But that, like you said, made no sense.
Let me bring up a
And 400,000 people agree with us because they left before the match.
I want to bring up a conversation. I've listened to this. I've actually listened to this. You and Conrad had a 30-minute conversation a couple months ago on your show. I've listened to it twice. It was very entertaining. And it was about when you had the conversation about how you have more faith in the creative writing process of WWE as opposed to AEW. And, bro, like, we've been in this business. Like, you talk about, you brought the perfect, the word I want to use, format. How many times you watch that show where there's like awkward outs at the end of a segment, where it's just like a sharp cut?
Looking stupid, ain't
like
you?
the announcers don't have any time to gestate or talk about anything like and the lack of filling the viewer in of what's been going on in the show the week or the week before to let you know what the story is.
Well, here's
Like,
another to your point, Glenn. One of the things I broke down is when that show last week opened up. Great, produced open, hot music, great action, okay, whatever, check the box, I liked it, it was well done. But then when we segued into Tony Khan making
I need another coach.
Okay, I vacated the AEW World title and the Trios titles, and we're going to have a tournament tonight, and we're going to have matches tonight, and we're going to try and whatever you said. No mention as to why, right? It's like everybody assumes that everybody's reading the fucking dirt sheets, right? And everybody knows everything that's going on because they're on the internet. Guess what? Not everybody is in the internet. Wrestling.
Well, not just that, bro.
Like 200,000 people tuned in that haven't been watching the show for the week before because they heard.
Okay, you do a disservice to your product because imagine this, Eric. Imagine you're watching UFC and they bring in some guy and they don't have an introductory video. They just say, this is so-and-so. That's it. When somebody comes to UFC, they tell you their rankings, their backstory, what country they're from. They fill you in on what the fuck you're watching. All of a sudden, guys show up out of nowhere, especially Japan, and you're like, who the fuck is this guy?
I think what it is, Conan, is it seems to me, I don't know anything, I'm not there. It seems to me like Tony's booking AEW like it's a sporting event and not like it's episodic television that's driven by characters and story.
Exactly.
And there's the difference. Now, if you treat professional wrestling like a athletic contest and you're just putting up great matches for the sake of great matches, you can do that. And a certain portion of the audience is going to get off on that. But the vast majority of the audience isn't going to watch it because if it's not story-driven and character-driven, they won't care.
Why did you guys fight? Like, why shake hands if these guys are fighting rather than Dave Meltzer says they're going to have a good match?
And then,
And
in all fairness, the guy's new to the business. He's still learning. He's making a lot of mistakes. But, like, for example, I'm sure you made a lot of mistakes your first few years in. But
I made a lot of mistakes yesterday. Fuck.
Right, but the main thing, this is why I want to give you some credit. But the main thing you did do is you surrounded yourself with qualified people that were giving you the best advice, and then it was up to you to say yes or no. And with all those people he's got around him, it doesn't seem like he's taking advice.
I agree, and it's one of the things that I said today on the Strictly Business show. I told John Elman, I said, if I was Tony Khan, man, I would lean into Chris Jericho. I'd lean into Jake Roberts. William Regal, are you kidding me? I mean, come on. And they each have their own unique perspective. So you get 2 or 3 of those guys that have been around for a minute,
right,
that have been through the shit, been through the, been to the mountain, and everywhere in between. Those guys know. And they're right there. I mean, they work for you already, for God's sake. Just tap into those guys. You don't think if Tony Khan said, look, call Chris Jericho on the phone, and I don't know what the relationship is. Maybe Chris doesn't want to do this, but assuming he does, you think if Tony Khan gave Chris Jericho a call and said, hey, Chris, do me a favor, come up with a program that's going to get Daniel Garcia over. I'll give you 8 weeks, 3 months, whatever it is you need, but let's do a build, and let's get his character, and let's get him over. Come up with some ideas, Chris, and let's figure it out. Let somebody that understands how to get people over, get that kid over. Not looking at, like, sports.
Yeah, here's another thing. I'm not a big fan of, like, what purpose does it serve? So-and-so's record is 17-30. This guy's 66-33. It's like, really, dude? I mean, I think those rankings are ridiculous and serve zero purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I get when he started out, like, and I've seen, look, I think I've tried shit like that myself once or twice. And it's really hard to manage if you want to make it mean something.
Right.
Because now your win and loss records are driving your creative. And no one can ever really do that. You can do it for a short period of time.
Or in a tournament, say.
Or in a tournament. You can do it. But over a long period of time, it's just another distraction. It doesn't really mean anything.
And I wanted to get back to something you mentioned. Let me tell you a cure-all that I kind of had for Tony.
The most glaring problem, I think it's like, if you want to gain viewers, and
that's just my luck.
They have to kind of be filled in on what's going on. They just
each one of these turtles won a fight or two.
Their community. This is what I try to have the way I try to describe like their business model. Is Tony was from the Dave Meltzer message.
Don't worry, Splinter.
Message board community, fantasy booker, wrestling fan, smart mark, and just what would happen? One of these people in that community end up having billions of dollars. And decided, you know what? I think you would agree, Garrett. You're a sports fan, right? If you had that kind of money, me personally, I would probably buy a wrestling organization. I would probably buy a football team. I wouldn't buy an English soccer team, but I might buy a hockey team.
Got him.
I would be smart to know, okay.
Think I finally beat this game.
I'm going to delegate my tasks to different people instead of just hey, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to run it. You know what I'm saying?
Unless your fantasy was to be Vince McMahon or Paul Heyman, or your fantasy was to be Jerry Jones, or
right.
Then you would make the mistake of trying to run it yourself.
Right, exactly. Let me finish. So so the guy comes in as I hate this word. I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's a classic example of a money man, right? A guy with a bunch of money bought the company.
Correct. Start to go all the way.
From the dirt sheet community. So that's why he read Meltzer's newsletter, talks to Dave, he's on the message boards and stuff.
So you're telling me this ain't over with yet?
This is what I want to get to, is when you were watching, you talked about the disrespect, when you were watching that press conference, and, when you were watching Punk, just openly, it had to have been embarrassing to Tony. Because he's been doing these media scrums, and they've been very friendly. The dirt sheet guys with softball questions, how to, they're corny, right? And they're not interested. And all of a sudden,
to raise my level up.
Punk is, burying talent that you're paying. He's paying Adam Page, he's paying Colt Cabana, He's just openly burying these guys and kind of like throwing you under the bus. When you were watching that, could you comprehend like if you were in that spot? Like what would at what point would you just cut that off and just say this is like how would you like in retrospect watching that? How would you react? Like if you were put in that situation? I'd like to hear it.
Well, I know how I'd like to think I would have reacted, and then there's how I probably would have reacted. And you guys know me well enough that have worked with me, so you know. I would have probably done some stupid shit. I would, at the very least, taken the mic away from him, or made an angle out of it somehow.
I think I remember making it to karate.
We're done. This train is off the tracks. Thank you all for showing up. This scrum is over. I don't even hate the fucking word scrum. It sounds so. It's not right.
And like, would you like
real quick, to piggyback off Disco's question, how would you have reacted if you were in Tony's shoes and Punk cuts off your answer to a question and goes, he doesn't have to answer.
What's going on, James?
I thought that really stuck out, like saying that's not his job. You know?
It was the most surreal.
So what they're telling me, I
would have
make it to this level or whatever.
I would have told you if I could shut up.
Be victorious.
I would have told whoever's running the audio that works for me to cut his fucking mic.
Yeah.
Because what he did there,
whatever.
What Punk did is,
you know what?
Humiliate,
I don't think I'm gonna do it anymore.
Disrespect Tony Khan, not only to wrestling fans, the people that tuned into whatever that was, but I just can't imagine what executives at Warner Discovery are thinking about when. Now this is the second time.